EntrepreNINES, everybody. I'm John Wist.
And I'm Bonni Mace. We're two Enneagram 9s who took the big leap into the world of entrepreneurship at a similar time. And this podcast is a space where we are inviting you to laugh and learn with us as we work to build businesses with soul. Episode 9.
Episode number 9.
On EntrepreNINES.
Yeah.
Episode 9.
And it's our second interview.
Yeah. We are welcoming an old friend. Not that you're old, Nate, but that we go back.
We go back
to many moons ago. This is Dr. Nate Oram, who is a practicing chiropractor with his own practice. So welcome.
Well, thank you guys for having me. Good afternoon.
Yeah. Thanks for making us a little bit jealous in the beautiful North Carolina weather that you are enjoying right now as we sit here in some chillier Maryland weather.
It's very windy here today, Nate. Like very windy.
Yeah.
Cold wind.
And 50s.
Indeed.
So,
Nice.
so you're looking great. You're looking great.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
No hiding
Just
it.
plain and simple. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's why we moved here. We love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Nate here is visiting us from North Carolina, as we said, chiropractor, and he is our first non-9 interview also. So Nate has tested as an Enneagram 1, but I think that this is new for you, right? Enneagram language, or am I assuming that wrong?
Nope, you are correct.
Okay.
First timer.
Great.
First time Enneagrammer.
First time we made him take the test.
So
And it was freakishly accurate, by the way.
nice.
So
So
yeah.
So why don't you just tell us give us a little bit of your first impression when you took the test and then got the result back. What was that like?
So I guess I'm very into different kind of testing and personality tests and different things like that. You know, I've done the Myers-Briggs and all those other ones. So I was like, ooh, cool. Let's find out more about myself, right? And you're going through the questions. Some of them I had to really think about. Some of them were just like, boom, right? Just, no real question about it. But when I got the results and just reading through the different paragraphs, I was like, whoa, yeah, this is, like I said, this is like quite accurate. And it's just amazing that through those, handful of questions, really decipher, what's going on upstairs.
Yeah.
So, I thought it was very cool, very interesting. And I'm excited to learn more about it. I listened to your guys' last podcast about the Enneagram number 1. So I learned a little more there, and I'm excited to kind of tell my story with you guys and explore a little bit more about that.
Yeah. Well, we'll definitely come back to some more like Enneagram specific stuff, but we definitely want to start with just your story and, how you got to become an entrepreneur and how long you've been doing it for and, what got you started? Like what sent you down this path to open your own practice?
Nice. So it all began right in end of 2013 about my brother-in-law, who I'm very close with. At the time, he was in chiropractic school at Palmer College of Chiropractic, and he was just sharing with me just what he's learning and just how great it is. And he says to me, you should really go to a chiropractor. I was like, yeah, sure, okay. So I didn't go. Right, and it wasn't until he actually looked up a chiropractor for me to go to in Maryland when we were living there. And then I was like, wow, you're really passionate about this. Maybe, okay, I'll go. So I went. And the care, it really took me from good to great, I guess. I wasn't like really hurting or anything like that. But it was the patient education that really blew my mind. Just how incredibly amazing the human body was created, and when it is corrected to function optimally as it was designed to operate, the potential that it has is amazing. So the nervous system, just learning about the nervous system through the chiropractor I was seeing, it just blew my mind. and I became a chiropractic advocate. And it wasn't until the chiropractor that I was seeing, Dr. Levi, and haven't reached out in a while, but anyway, she says, Nate, have you ever thought about going back to school? And that blew my mind because I had never even thought about it. So a couple phone calls later to Palmer College of Chiropractic, and 6 months maybe later, we moved halfway across the country to Davenport, Iowa, and I started school, and it was great. Now, stop me if you have any questions. I'm going to keep rolling.
Yeah, keep going.
So one of the first classes you take in chiropractic school is all about the central nervous system. And in this class, you learn about just the function and how it operates literally, all these life-sustaining functions in the body, and how important it is, and how the area in the upper neck, the brainstem, controls so many of these functions. So the more when I learned that there were chiropractic techniques that focus specifically on that area, I was like, well, that makes sense, right? Why not focus on this area? So the more I got to learn about the specific technique, the technique that I gravitated to that really resonated with me is called NUCCA. It stands for the National Upper Cervical Chiropractic Association. And kind of the major premise is that the musculoskeletal system, right, or posture, right, for a different word, in a word, is an automated system of the body, no different than breathing, right? Okay. We can consciously affect our posture by sitting up straight, right, or by not leaning, et cetera, et cetera. But as soon as we stop thinking about it, we go back to a crooked position. Right? So the premise of NUCCA is that the postural control system is in the upper neck. And by correcting a misalignment caused by a trauma to the head and neck, it effectively recalibrates the nervous system to allow the musculoskeletal system to function normally, right? And what that normal looks like is being plumb and level to gravity, right? And it does it instantaneously, which is incredible. So it's less invasive, right? So no twisting, cracking, popping necessary because it's so very, very specific. And the cool thing about it is it's very efficient in as much as we found that you don't need to keep going back multiple times a week for an extended period of time because the body wants to be plumb and level, right? It wants to stay that way. So we work a lot with lifestyle to make positive changes to best support holding the alignment is what we call it. So for me, it was just checking all these boxes and I was like, let's do this. Nice. So I went all in. And after I graduated, I had, during the time in school, I had shadowed 17 different chiropractic offices across the country to try to learn more about what I like, what I don't like. And I ended up I decided to what's called associate. So I worked with another chiropractor, a NUCCA chiropractor, Dr. Matthew McNally in Tomah, Wisconsin. I did a 3-year, essentially a residency, if you will, to really focus on my clinical skills because I wanted to be the best that I could be before I started out on my own because I always knew that I wanted to work for myself. So I wanted to give myself as much clinical certainty before we made that jump, right? So that's how we ended up in Wisconsin. And my associateship ended in March of last year. And then in April, we moved to North Carolina and started the process of building a business.
Yeah. Wow. So,
We opened our doors in just after Labor Day,
okay.
and we've been going hard since.
So about 6 months. Is that right?
Yeah.
6 or 7?
Oop.
Yeah. So that's funny. That's about when John and I started our ventures also. I was October of
Okay.
last year, and John was
That was August.
August.
Yep.
Yeah. So,
Nice.
yeah, we can all celebrate our business birthdays together.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Nate, can I go back? Because I realize that our listeners don't know this about you, and it wasn't super clear when you were saying, is that chiropractic practice was totally new for you. Like, it's almost as far as saying it's like totally out of left field, because you were not even in a medical position when you started learning about chiropractic. When we knew you, you were in a completely different career. Is that right?
Yes. I was in law enforcement, so the health field was very, very new to me. I had, been familiar with the concept of chiropractic, but I wasn't a regular chiropractic patient.
Yeah, I think it's always encouraging to hear that a lot of times people make entrepreneurial jumps that are sort of parallel to where they have been, and yours I would not call necessarily parallel to where you were at all. You made a jump to a whole different, I don't know a good analogy, but it's very different from law enforcement, clearly.
Oh yeah, it's been quite an amazing journey, because through every step of the way, it has been completely clear that this is God's plan for our life. The jump to go to chiropractic school, the jump to join the organizations that I did, to meet the people that I met, to work where I worked, and to move to where we are. Every step of the way has been, so far beyond coincidental that it could only be explained by God's sovereign plan.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I wish you guys could see the smile on his face when he was talking about that. That was deep belief.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So, Nate, like you said, you knew you wanted to work on your own. Like, you wanted to work for yourself. Where did that drive come from? And kind of tell us a little bit about how Revelation like actually came to be once you moved to North Carolina.
So within chiropractic, there's different options, right? You can work under a doctor in a group practice. You can be what's called an independent contractor, kind of have your own business, but share space or share equipment. Or you can decide to rock and roll on your own. And after learning about these different options and just kind of learning more about myself, and at this time I was 26 years old, so I had a little bit of life experience, and I knew, having worked in more of the corporate structure, that I'm quite particular about certain things, and I have an idea of, it's hilarious as I'm explaining this, I'm hearing the type 1 things, right?
Yeah.
But I have a gut, right? Right, here we go, gut, right? Just how I think things should be, and how I want to run my practice, how I want to take care of my patients, the way that I see is best, right? And in order to do that, I have to be able to make the rules, right? Obviously within reason, and all that stuff. But I knew that relatively soon after just seeing, like I said, shadowing the different offices and seeing again what I liked and what I didn't like. And it's you often learn more about how you want to do things by the things that you don't like.
Right. Yeah.
So I started kind of developing the way I wanted to practice and the way I wanted my business to look early on in chiropractic school.
That's cool. That's very cool. And so kind of we'll ride your Enneagram number here for a minute. We'll ride the one train for a second. So, you know, you heard in the episode, and you saw when you read through kind of your summary, that a lot of being Enneagram 1 kind of centers around your definition of goodness, right? And so we kind of want to take that idea and say, like, what is your vision of your business being good? And then, like, what's the ultimate vision for your business? We're still kind of in infancy in some senses, but like, what's that vision for down the road for you?
The biggest thing that makes me think of that is really being transparent, open and honest.
Love that.
With patients, with prospective patients. It's far too common in chiropractic, and I'm sure business across the board is to, different marketing tactics, bait and switch kind of things like that. And that is a huge turnoff for me personally. Not only do I not like to be sold, right, but I don't like selling really. I do group consultations every week. They're complimentary, so no charge. It's informational. I talk about what I do. I talk about the NUCA protocol, how it differs from traditional chiropractic, how it can help, as well as expectations. Not only expectations, for the patient, but expectations I have as the doctor, right? And I find that it creates better doctor-patient relationships. And because of that, that transparency really maximizes the results, I guess, in a way. So, we talk about, hey, this is how long it takes, right? We talk about, this is how much it costs, period, so that way the prospective patient can make the best decision about their health going forward.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Zero pressure. And I 100%, that's me.
Yeah.
And I love it.
That's
so
awesome.
That's what we do.
That's awesome.
That's what we do.
I can just, if you don't mind me Enneagram praising just a little bit, just for people listening who are trying to build businesses and capitalize on their Enneagram type or draw wisdom from others, like just hearing you say that and having the standard of honesty and integrity and upfront and also expectations, all of those are one superpowers, right? Like that are coming out to shine in your business. And we're seeing that you benefit from that. So before we even jumped on or started recording, Nate was kind of like, oh man, I'm the worst Enneagram number. And I told him I would be sure to turn it back around and say, no, like these are going to be your superpowers coming through. Yeah. And literally all of that is definitely built into, the draw of a 1 and some of the strengths of a 1. And I love hearing how it's benefiting both you and your clients. So the ability to live into your strengths with compassionate confidence. Yeah. If I can throw that out there, it's a phrase I'm working on. Is not just for your own benefit, it's benefiting everybody that you've come in contact with. So just huge props to that. Yeah. That's really cool. Yeah. But Thank you. Vision, right? He didn't answer that part of the question.
Yeah, let's come back to vision. And I will say too, like, I appreciate this conversation because I feel like these are common values that we all share.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is like transparency and authenticity in our businesses and making sure people know up front, like, what we're about, what we want to do, how we expect to like interact with them, pricing, all that kind of thing. So I appreciate it. So thank you for sharing that part too.
Feels like an affirmation.
Yeah. So yeah, let's talk about vision a little bit. I mean, what does Revelation Spinal Care look like in 5 years, 10 years? Like what are we looking at?
Nice. Good questions. So the goal is to, for the first 2 years, 2 to 3 years, is to just really establish a large patient base to get the word out that we do things differently. And from there, out of a need to grow, I would like to mentor and hire another chiropractor, another NUCA chiropractor. We're about 2 hours from Sherman College of Chiropractic. So I've connected with students there to, some have come and shadowed and whatnot. And I'm all about, again, just being transparent with students as well and say, hey, this is what I do. If you're interested, by all means, come up, spend time with me. I'll take care of you. But that is the next step, is to grow the practice in that sense. Because right now I work 4 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Wednesdays are admin days, right? So we do networking. This morning we met with a functional medicine practitioner and a mental health coach. We had some brunch, just learning how we can co-manage patients. I also do the QuickBooks and all that fun stuff on Wednesdays. But the goal is, I like this schedule, right? And when it starts to bust at the seams, right, that's a hint that I'd like to hire another person rather than expand to, Saturdays or longer hours or things like that, because I love to take care of people. But I think it's absolutely essential to take care of yourself too, right?
Yeah.
So that's the goal in the next 2 to 3 years, is to have another doctor in the office so that I can maintain this schedule and continue to grow and to take care of patients with quality.
So you mentioned the Wednesday admin day already, and you kind of hinted a little bit more at your schedule. But, one of the questions we wanted to ask you was like, how do you honor yourself in the way that you run your business? So expound upon that just a little bit more, because you touched on it for a second, but I just want you to kind of tell us like your philosophy in the way that you run your business in keeping yourself healthy.
Right. And it's so very, very important. And I've seen a lot of different practices. And unfortunately, I've seen a lot of chiropractors just run themselves in the ground with great intentions, right? Sure. Taking care of more and more people, which again is a good thing. But I decided that I have to set boundaries, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And have tangible goals and action items, right, when certain goals are hit. So the schedule, right, and the frequency of how many patients I see an hour, how many new patients I see in a week, there are certain things that I am not willing to compromise on, because number one, it will negatively impact patient care, and it will also negatively impact me, my relationship with my wife, and relationship with other people I love. Right. So that's to me, that's huge. Having lines drawn in the sand based on experience, right? Not just based on random numbers, right? But that's kind of my biggie, and I encourage a lot of students and my peers to do that as well, because it's easy. As someone in a health field, we want to help people, right? That's why we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there is no shortage of people that need help. But again, I find it that at a certain point, it will be compromised if you go past your capacity.
Yeah.
Right. So
that's good.
Yeah. If you don't mind, like, I am learning things, and I like to reiterate things that I learned in case other people missed it while they were listening to you. So hearing from your perspective that you have set measurable goals to say, okay, I'm reaching my capacity, I think is really wise practice and something that I hope that listeners can draw from, and that I'm going to challenge myself to try to draw from, to say, what is the capacity? And so for John and I both, we've definitely learned from boundaries being pressed and being overtaxed and things like that. So that's a huge value for our businesses as well. So hearing how you have really it sounds like a great system in place, as just warning flags, no shame, no value tied up in it, just to say, here's a marker that says to me, this is a capacity warning. And, like I like to say, the car dashboard things, like your fuel tank's moving towards, and when I get to quarter of a tank, I need to find a gas station. And that sort of marker as a signpost to say, okay, it's time to make an adjustment here for me and for my soul. He's showing us his dog, just loving life. I love it. So that was profoundly wise, and I wanted to reiterate it because I think a lot of people can borrow that practice and be healthier, and we can have healthier people serving other people in the world, because you want to come from a place of health to do that. So
absolutely.
Yes.
So I don't want to be like, oh, this has been so inspirational. Now let's talk about the hard part. But
also,
let's
talk about the hard part. But I really do think you've been encouraging and really inspirational in the way that you have approached your business. But I think part of us being honest and open and transparent is that, we have entire episodes about the struggle, right? So the struggle is a thing for entrepreneurship. There is the really, really good, and there's the really, really hard. And so just tell us a little bit, what are some of the biggest hurdles you've faced so far in your journey, and how have you approached them? How have you gotten over them?
So I will absolutely, tell you guys, and I tell students this often, is that I probably want to quit and do something else on a weekly basis, if not more. Right?
There's your honesty. Yeah. Thanks for that.
Because I tend to, if you have 100 things, right, and you do 99 good things, and then you have that one thing, right, that is difficult, or you didn't hit that home run, I tend to focus on that one thing rather than the 99 home runs, right? So that's a struggle for me, mindset wise, I guess. But business ownership, entrepreneurship has provided so many challenges from day one. And it's like you finally figure out business entity, right? I swear I read so many different things and talked to multiple different accountants and what is it? An attorney. What kind of attorney was he? Anyways, to try to figure out these things.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you have to make a decision, right? A very wise mentor of mine said, a 70% decision now is better than a 100% decision when it's too late, right?
That's wise.
So we can only do so much research and put so much time into trying to do things the very best way the first time.
Yeah.
So I have more of a tendency to drag my feet and try to, make the very best decision kind of a thing the first time rather than do it again.
Yeah.
But I forgot where I was going with that. Struggles, right?
Struggles.
There's no end. There is no end.
Yeah.
And when you crush one thing, right around the corner, there's something new.
Yeah.
I have learned to delegate more because I cannot do it all on my own. Right? There are certain things that I have to do in my business, like take care of patients. But there are other things that while I want to do because I think I do them very well, I have to let go. And I have to allow Jessie, my wife, right, to do certain things in the office. She's a director of operations, by the way. She runs the show. I just take care of patients. But it's been a challenge to delegate and to allow her. She wants to do these things, and so, and she's great at it. And that's the thing, is I need to just relinquish control and allow other people to do what they're great at.
Yeah.
So that is in and of itself has been a kind of an overarching theme of growth for me. But really, all the different challenges, we have a lot of earthly resources that we can draw from, whether that's people who have been there, done that, different online resources, books, webinars, videos, things like that. But ultimately, business ownership has forced me to rely more on our Heavenly Father. And I will say, I can say this confidently, that my relationship with God has grown exponentially in the last year. And I think it's, the commonality is all these challenges, these new things, right? So yeah,
that's great.
The struggle is real.
The struggle is real. I'm gonna jump in with some Enneagram coach encouragement to say, and you may have picked up on this in the last episode too, of just these new things are so hard for one, but I didn't talk about how hard delegating is for one, and overcoming that one thing that has gone wrong. That's your inner critic, and I, as you learn to separate that, the inner critic isn't me, it's part of me. Hello, inner critic. Thank you for your opinion. My own business coach yesterday was like, tell it to go have a seat in color. You don't need it right now. It's from Elaine, who we interviewed in episode 4, and learning to balance that is a huge struggle. So, it is a massive struggle to overcome. And it sounds like you're taking it in stride, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
So props to you. Continue giving yourself the grace and God the glory, because those are hard things for a one. So solid pat on the back, a solid I am doing the thing
Thank you.
to you for that.
Need it.
Yeah. All right. What else in that?
So let's just wrap up with kind of your okay. Well, I know we sent you a question, but I'm gonna tweak it slightly, if that's okay.
We do these things to people.
Love it.
And so I want you to consider, like, what's a piece of entrepreneurial advice that you would have for just anyone, right? So anyone looking to start a business like that. So what's just a one little nugget? But then you've gotten to learn a lot about Enneagram 1s over the past little bit here, even just today. And so kind of knowing yourself maybe a little bit better, or knowing kind of what an Enneagram 1 entrepreneur might be facing in their pursuit of their business. Kind of give us a two-parter here. So just kind of some general advice, but then kind of knowing yourself a little bit more now, what would you say to another Enneagram 1 who's jumping in head first?
Well, I think I already touched on a few things earlier that are just huge, that have made a massive impact on my life. And I think one is expectations, right? I talk about expectations with my patients, but I think it's essential to have expectations for yourself and for your business. I tend to set very high expectations for myself, and too often do not achieve those expectations, and I'm very hard on myself because of it.
Yeah.
Right. Enter inner critic. But but I think having realistic expectations and reasonable expectations is huge. And also having someone who loves you to review those expectations, right?
That's good.
Yeah,
And to
that's
help
solid.
hold you accountable, so that someone else can look at what you're doing through their eyes, right? To help you, right? To help give that pat on the back, right? To help you reel in your unreasonable expectations, right? To help you make things more achievable and more succeedable, so that way you can celebrate more wins and not focus so much on the struggle.
Yeah.
So expectations are huge with that. And then another thing we can talk about is having the line in the sand, right, that I mentioned earlier, is because the reason, like I said, people go into work for themselves. They go into entrepreneurship for different reasons, I'm sure. But ultimately, I think a common theme is probably because you want some form of control, right? So it's essential to have boundaries set, right? Have certain goals that will trigger actions, so that way you can still maintain some control, right?
That's good.
So that you can run the business and not allow the business to run you,
Yeah.
right? Because that is way too easy.
Yeah.
And that's how people burn out, and that's how they quit, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think having boundaries to maintain a certain level of control, right, is essential.
That's awesome.
As well.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's really good. Well, I mean, I'm encouraged as an entrepreneur who's been in the game about as long as you have.
Yeah.
Like, I'm encouraged by, I think it's fun for me to hear vision and to hear about your future and where you're headed, and to also understand that you've put some of those constraints on yourself, that you've put some of those limits on yourself, so that you can grow at your pace and not someone else's pace, or not
pace of demand.
The pace of demand or anything like that. And so, I mean, I'm encouraged by that. I think it hits right with what we're trying to do in the growth of our businesses is, really just think about what do we want out of this, and what do we want it to look like. And again, it kind of comes back to those expectations you're talking about. How can we set expectations for ourselves that are reasonable, that are they're stretching. I think they're stretching, but they are a stretch that is a healthy stretch.
Yeah.
Mr. Chiropractor.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Can I ask that question for those of us who write our keyboard all day?
Oh, nice.
Teach us how to care for ourselves well, since we can't attend your chiropractic practice. You got a hot tip that will translate over audio waves? On the spot.
Oh,
Sorry.
What do I say? It's important to take care of yourselves, right? We talked a little bit about grace, and I think too often these days, people are just in the go, go, go kind of a phase of life, and they do not allow their body the adequate rest it needs to recover. So it's this continued downhill degeneration, if you will. So take breaks during the day, right? Take a quick cat nap, a 20-minute cat nap. Break up the stress of the day. The human body has to adapt to stressors, right? Physical stressors, mental stressors, and emotional stressors. And we have a limit of what we can adapt to. So by inserting the adequate amount of rest, which is different for every person, right, based on your lifestyle, but the requisite amount of rest will give the body, again, the best chance to adapt, to heal, and continue to get better with time, instead of reinforcing that negative feedback loop of degeneration. So give yourself a little grace.
I love that.
That's awesome.
So much. I mean, I was just like ready for you to be like, okay, turn your head to the left and to the right. And then I got something so much more profound. So thank you. Thank you for that.
Yeah. That's I think it's a great way to wrap it up. So
Yeah.
I think, I think fantastic conversation. Thank you, Nate.
Thank you.
For spending some time with us, spending some of your admin day with
Yes.
us. We really appreciate it. And obviously, we cannot come see you, but if you're listening and you're in North Carolina, we will have a link to Revelation Spinal Care in the show notes. So check Nate out. Make sure to support him and support us by giving us a rating and review. You can send us a message through our Anchor site.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Yeah, and we'll link any of Nate's socials and our socials there too.
Yeah.
But until then, have a fantastic rest of your day.
Yeah,
And thanks for listening.
See you next time.